LS589, and today we're going to talk about Integrated Library System, also known as ILS. Uh, Many of you have probably taken the automation class, and you know that the Integrated Library System is at the core of the new or the contemporary library, functioning library. Of course, in the past, we didn't have the information technologies that we have today. So maybe when you were growing up, or if there are still some libraries that run things out of paper or index cards. So the integrated system is a series of modules. So the main one, of course, is what we call the OPAC, the Online Public Access Catalog. Okay, that's a web technology right there. As I was saying, in the past we had the index cards catalog. I still remember those, and when I went to college, we would still use the index card catalogs. Now, what we use is in most libraries in the US, Europe, and parts of Asia, now we use an integrated library system. And there are many places, and even here in the US, smaller libraries, and of course in South America and Africa and Asia and some parts of Europe that still don't use an integrated library system. The integrated library system is a very functional piece of hardware and software because it lets you integrate different modules for the library to be more efficient. I already mentioned the OPAC, but then you have the patron module, the cataloging module, the circulation module, the acquisition module. So you have several modules in one package that are sharing information. And that information, of course, it's web-based because as we will see, you have, for example, your OPAC is online. So patrons can search remotely your OPAC. This is only possible now with the internet and the World Wide Web. I'm not going to go into every detail about the ILS because we have a class called automation and digital libraries too. But I will talk a little bit about the ILS and how important they are for the library to function well, for the modern library. And I will also post a video that I make from an open source ILS, so you can explore that web technology. So an automation system and integrated library system are terms that used to describe software, and this is one of the key words here, software that operates circulation, cataloging, public access, catalog reports, and other modules that do the work of typical library operations. Before we had the integrated library system, we may have had those modules, but they were separated. By integrating them, then we have a system that can share information. An integrated library system is a system with several databases, and they are integrated in one big system, and they share information. Okay, so when one book is circulating, you check out the book, or it's going to circulate. You're going to check out the book, and it pulls out information of the patron. And also, you will know as a librarian if the patron owes any money to the library, etc. It will tell the patron. Some systems will send an email or a phone call to the patron telling that they have to return the book and so on. So it's or even a text message. Okay. So the idea of the integrated library system is that information is being shared by different modules, and that makes again the library, the functioning of the library more more reliable, and makes all the systems faster, and also you have better records of what is going on in the library. library or have automation systems that manage serials, acquisitions, cataloging, circulation system, patron authentication. These are the main modules that you will have in your system. And here comes the web-based technology and this remote access. Okay, if you have a ILS that can be only be used on site, then you may have an Ethernet, a local network, but you are not using a web-based technology. But if you have your OPAC being published online in the internet, your OPAC, then it's a web-based technology. Remote access to a library's online databases uses by the patron database within the ILS to authenticate a library patron. And here, this is an example of sharing information between modules. When we log into the Clarion library website, and we want to see, for example, a database. Well, we have to enter our credentials, our email, and our password, and the ILS then authenticate in the patron module that we are allowed to use resources within the library, and so so that information is pulled from the patron's module to authenticate the patron as a user of the library of the Clarion library website. That's an example. And then once it has done that, then you are offered access to the database that you want to examine. Okay, so this is an example of how the different modules in the ILS systems are integrated, and how you can remote access a database or the OPAC, and you can check out documents that are printed, or they may be electronic and web-based. Many libraries, including our library, but many libraries in our area here in Western Pennsylvania, they offer ebooks. And ebooks that are web-based. Why? Because you authenticate your credentials with your library, and then you are allowed access to download those electronic books to your computer or to your tablet. Okay? And this is an example of a web-based technology too. And this is what in my opinion, we will see in the future. Not only with books or serials, magazines, etc. But I believe that we will be seeing in the future how you can check out electronically and remotely movies, videos, music, video games, etc. There is no a technological reason why this cannot be done. The problem, I think, is a license issue. But once that's sorted out, then we will be able to circulate electronically many different resources that are in our library. Most ILS are legacy systems. Legacy means that they are outdated, and of course they need to be updated. It is important to learn what has changed in the industry since the library last change of the ILS. And of course, if you are working in a library and you have an integrated library system, your system may be a legacy system, which means that it must be updated. And your library may think that, well, they will have to update that system. The field of library automation is rapidly evolving and increasingly complex due to the technological innovations in software delivery service, mergers, and competition. And this is true. And this is true with every information technology because it's changing so rapidly. I was talking to, last week I went to I don't know if any of you went there. We went to the PLA conference in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and I was talking to several librarians there, and and we were just chatting, and we were remembering when we used to use microfiche, okay, and then after the microfiche, we went to the floppy disk, and from the floppy disk we went to there were some to the hard disk. From the hard disk, we went to the CD, and from the CD to the DVD, and now we have web-based technologies. Now we have everything online. Okay, so and the same this phenomenon of rapid change, it's also impacting. It is the word is not. It is also impacting. It is impacting every area of our life. I remember when the first, many of you will remember when the first cellular phone came and become to the marketplace. Probably that was, let me think, probably the 1990s. I don't remember the date, but phones at the time were made to, cell phones were made to use as phones. In other words, they were used to carry on a conversation, a voice conversation. Nowadays, the last reports I have read with the smartphones, the iPhones or the Android phones, etc., is that phones are used mostly to share data, to share messages, to share pictures, music, etc., to browse the web, and they are being used less for voice conversation. So technology, information technologies, change so rapidly that everything becomes legacy. Legacy meaning outdated. So now we have to change fonts every 2 years. We have to update what we can do at the library also frequently, because the technologies are changing too fast. Again, we just have to look 20 years in the past to see how much we have changed and how much technology we use nowadays, and how everything now is web-based, and how everything now is online. Okay, as I'm doing this lecture for you, I'm recording this lecture and then I put it in YouTube and it's already online. So I'm using a web-based technology to teach my class. When I'm using D2L, I'm using a web-based technology to share content. Well, the same thing happens in the library. Again, in my opinion, and I'm going to repeat myself several times, I think we will be streaming more digital content over the web. So we have to rethink about the library. Do we need to have so many printed resources in our library if most of our patrons are going to be online users? I don't know. That's a question that we have to ask ourselves. Or should we go all electronic and just keep those documents that have that are very valuable or have historical value? But what about other books or a reference collection that we have to be changing every year? Does it have to be printed, or could be all electronic? And could it be all web-based? We don't have to have any resource, any resource at the library. But what we have to have is access, and what we have to offer is access. So we have to take that into consideration. There are several types of integrated library system. Turnkey is a turnkey implementation, and that refers to how it is implemented, to purchasing from a single vendor an integrated library system that includes both the software and the hardware. And this is a very good idea because everything comes in one package. So sometimes this is more efficient, but it may be more expensive too. One of the advantages is that you don't need a specialized staff at the library to run a turnkey ILS, because your vendor will take care of everything. Of course, all the information not all the information, all the management of the system will be done possible by the vendor. Okay. You will have to do, and here it says you will have to do you will have to administer some functions of the ILS, but this in terms of cabling, router, firewall, DMC. That's an area where it's more secure, switches security, so on. By the way, something that we have to emphasize today with web-based technologies is security, okay? Because all the information of the library or the information about an individual, it's if it's web-based, it's I wouldn't say easy, but it will be easier to access than if it were printed records at the library. So, for example, when we have the patron's information, we have his name, we have his physical address, we have his phone numbers, and we may even have his driver license information too. Well, we have to make sure that information is secure. Okay? That it's not, even though it may be web-based, it has to be secure. Because the patron is trusting us to keep that information secure. So think about that. And security has become internet security or digital security. It's an issue nowadays, and we can see in the news how hackers and other mafias they steal information they steal our information that we have used to buy things online or in the marketplace. If you go to shop, you go shopping and you put your information in it and you use your credit card or your debit card, that information is registered digitally and is transferred between the store to the bank to the credit card provider. Everything is web-based and it's supposed to be secure. However, there are always, like I said, hackers and mafias are always able to get your information, and they do, and they steal all your information, and of course, they will commit fraud and they will steal. That happened to me with my IRS return, for example, last year. Somebody was also filing an electronic return on my name, and that was it was a big issue that it took me like 6 to 7 months to fix. Standalone installation describes systems in which the hardware and software are purchased separately and the system administration, the library staff, installs the client server software. This is, of course, another way to have an ILS system in your library. However, you have to have staff members that that know how to install and manage and run or to implement a system. It may be a good idea if the library doesn't have the funds, but if it is very complicated too. So you have to think very careful which way you want to choose when you are updating your ILS system. Here are things that you have to do when you're doing a standalone installation. These are the administrator activities. You have to back up, you have to have ILS servers and data maintenance, you have to create reports, you have to do technical support, you have to customize interface, you have to manage security, troubleshooting server and workstations, keeping the network functioning, implementing new models. These are all administrator activities, and this can be done, of course, by library staff members who are more versed in web technologies, or of course you can have somebody from the outside that can do this administrative course for you. Hosted system. And this, when we talk about hosted systems, then this is all web-based, because the vendor hosts the library IL software purchased by the library, bibliographic records, patron records, and sometimes the library website. So you don't have anything on site. In the building of the library, there are not servers. Everything is at your vendor. And so when you, for example, when you're a staff member of that library and you want to add a record, a patron record or catalog record or a circulating record, whatever record you want to add to one of the modules in the ILS, you have to be aware. I mean, that's not something that should worry you, but the information is already going through to the internet from the library to the location of the server. The location of the server, your library may be in Pennsylvania, and the location of the server may be in New Mexico, or maybe in China, or maybe in Australia. You don't know where, or in Canada. You exactly have no idea where the servers are located. You know they are being administered by your vendor. Okay, so this is also a consideration if you want to have that information in your hands, or you trust the vendor to have that information in their servers. The good thing about this, of course, is this is maybe an expensive system. However, you don't have to worry about technical issues, because what you're running, the hardware that you're running is very little. Everything is in the hands of the vendor. You just have to make sure that your LAN, and that's your local area network, and your internet connection are working properly. So patrons that go to your library, to your physical library, are able to access the resources that are on your library, but the representation of those resources, that's the electronic or the digital representation of those resources, which is the catalog, are not in your library. That information, that metadata, it's somewhere else. And that's a very interesting idea. You know, something that we don't think all the time, but where we do that all the time. When I get, let's say I put information in Google Docs or in the iCloud, or any of the services that are in the cloud. Well, that is my information, but it doesn't. I don't have possession of that information. That information is residing in a remote server. The same thing happens with the library when they choose this model of ILS. There's another one that is part of the same thing. There is this service, software as a service, refers to a subscription service for web-based software. And here we go back again to the core of our class. This is a web-based software. The library does not purchase the ILS software. Instead, it pays an initial fee, and it may pay also a monthly or annual fee to the vendor. The vendor might host the library website. The vendor is responsible for security, and the software update is also the vendor's responsibility. Okay, so that's also a web-based solution for your ILS system. Of course, there is open source, and I mentioned at the beginning that I will be posting a video that I did with open source. And I did it for my automation class, but I want you to watch it because I think it's relevant for the discussion. Open source systems are great solutions. However, you have to have in your staff somebody who is interested in getting to know the open source. Why? Because you will not have the same support as if you are going through a commercial vendor. You have support, other type of support, but you need somebody to spend more time updating, correcting, editing, etc. your ILS. Okay, and because in most cases, open source systems, they have large communities of librarians and other IT people that work to develop new products for that ILS, and they don't cost. The cost may seem minimal. However, if you need a staff member who is willing to get into open source, then you may have run into higher costs because you will need experienced personnel. Okay, but it's a good alternative, especially for smaller libraries that don't have a big budget. And open source ILS systems are very, very good. So you have to evaluate the library facility and staffing. Why? Before you choose what type of implementation you want for your ILS, you have to know what resources you can count of. So please make sure you listen to the lecture and see the PowerPoint, and also see to the lecture that to one open source ILS system that I use in LS385 LS385 automation, and see that that is a viable solution for ILS systems. The ILS, it's the integrated library system. It's at the heart of the library operation. It makes the operation of the library more efficient. It offers web-based technologies. It offers remote access. You just have to be aware about security. Okay, that's in my opinion, that's the main problem of ILS system. But that is not a issue only with ILS system. It is an issue with every system that is web-based, and that's security. Okay, thank you.